Okay, let's tackle these example questions for side angle side triangle congruence. Remember, what we're looking for are two sides with an angle between them that are specified to know that two triangles are exactly congruent in all ways. So what we need to do for example A is find out what additional piece of information do we need to show that the two triangles are congruent using the side angle side postulate. So with the two triangles we have here, we know that side LM is congruent to side AC, and that angle C, which is ACB, is congruent to angle LMK. So we have a side and then we have an angle, and we have a side and then we have an angle. What we don't know is whether this third side over here is congruent. If we knew that BC was congruent to KM, then we know that the two triangles were congruent. It wouldn't help us to know whether KL was congruent to AB, because then we'd have side-side angle, and side-side angle doesn't work. But side angle side does. So if we knew that KM was congruent to BC, then we'd know that they were congruent. Until we know that, we can't really say anything about them at all. All right, let's take a look at example B. Example B says, given that C is the midpoint of AE and DB, prove that triangle ACB is congruent to triangle ECD. Okay, so we're going to do this with a two-column proof. We'll start with our first statement. 1 says that C is the midpoint of AE and DB. That's given. We just read that. And it was also given that and because of that, because C is the midpoint of AE and DB, we know that AC here is congruent to CE, since the definition of a midpoint is that it's the middle of a line, which then would divide the line into two equal parts, right? And we also then know that BC is congruent to CD for the same reason. We also know that angle ACB, which let's mark that in red so it's just out a little bit, angle ACB right here is going to be congruent to angle DCE right here, based on the fact that those are vertical angles. Vertical angles are always equal. So now we've proven that we have a side, an angle, and a side that are congruent on those two triangles, and based on side angle side postulate, we know that the two triangles are indeed congruent. Statement 4. Okay, let's take a look at example C. Example C asks if the pair of triangles are congruent, and if so, asks us to write the congruent statement and why they are. So here's what we have. We have a side that is congruent, and we have an angle that is congruent, and we have another side that is congruent. So we have two sides and an angle that are all congruent. What we don't have is an angle between the two sides that is marked as congruent on this triangle over here. Here we have side, side, angle. Over here we have side, angle, side, side, angle, side, and that's fine. But because the other triangle does not have the angle between the two sides, it doesn't do us any good to tell us that those other things are congruent, because we need this angle to be between the two sides. If that angle were marked over here, we'd be okay. We'd know that the two triangles were indeed congruent. But since it's not, we don't know. They might be. We just don't know. They could be, we just don't have enough information. So maybe they are, maybe not. And that's it. Let's go on.